Here is a claim that sounds like an exaggeration but is not. The refrigerator has probably saved more human lives than any other object in your home, more than smoke detectors, more than seat belts, more than medicine cabinets. The simple act of keeping food cold has altered the fundamental trajectory of human civilization, changing where people could live, what they could eat, how diseases spread, and how long they survived. And almost no one thinks about it that way, because the refrigerator sits quietly in your kitchen, humming, doing its work without drama or acknowledgement. Before refrigeration existed, food did not simply become less fresh. It became actively, lethally dangerous. And the solutions humanity invented to manage that danger are stranger and more dramatic than you would expect. To understand why refrigeration mattered so much, you need to understand what life was like without it. In the summer months of the pre-refrigeration era, food spoilage was not an inconvenience. It was a serious, recurring threat to survival. Meat purchased in the morning could be unsafe to eat by afternoon in warm weather. Dairy products had a window of hours, not days. The smell of a 19th century market district in July was documented by multiple observers as genuinely nauseating. Urban families, unable to slaughter their own animals and without access to rural cold storage, faced a constant calculation between eating potentially spoiled food and going without. Foodborne illness kills in enormous numbers. Typhoid fever, caused by contaminated food and water, killed approximately 35,000 Americans per year in the early 20th century alone. Infant botulism from improperly preserved foods, dysentery, salmonella. The bacterial agents had not yet been identified. The mechanisms of transmission were not understood, but the pattern was clear. Summer was when people, especially children, died from what they ate. Ancient civilizations had understood that cold preserved food, and they worked with remarkable ingenuity to exploit whatever cold sources were available. The ancient Romans transported snow and ice down from the Apennine Mountains and stored it in deep underground chambers lined with straw insulation. Emperor Nero was reportedly supplied with snow preserved in deep pits, specifically for cooling his drinks and food. Persian engineers developed the yakhchal, large, sophisticated ice storage structures built from a special heat-resistant mortar made of sand, clay, egg whites, lime, and ash. Some Persian yakhchals were large enough to store ice through summer in a region where summer temperatures exceeded 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Archaeological remains of these structures survive across modern Iran. In Tudor England, wealthy estates maintained ice houses, deep brick-lined underground chambers where ice cut from frozen ponds during winter was packed in straw and could be preserved well into the following summer. These were expensive infrastructure investments, accessible only to the aristocracy and wealthy merchants. For everyone else, food preservation relied on salt, smoking, drying, fermentation, and pickling, all of which added preservation at the cost of significantly altering the food's character and nutrition. The scale of institutional reliance on ice fundamentally changed in the 19th century through one of the most improbable commercial empires in American history. Frederick Tudor, a Boston merchant born in 1783, became known as the Ice King of the world. In 1806, Tudor began cutting ice from the frozen ponds of New England during the winter months and shipping it to tropical climates where natural ice was simply unknown. His first cargo of ice arrived in Martinique in the Caribbean. He shipped ice to Charleston, South Carolina. He shipped ice to Havana, Cuba. In 1833, he successfully shipped 100 to 80 tons of ice from Boston to Calcutta, India, a journey that took 4 months. The ice arrived more than half intact, packed in sawdust, and delivered to an astonished market that had never seen frozen water. By the 1850s, the American ice trade had become a significant commercial industry, employing thousands of workers and shipping hundreds of thousands of tons annually to cities across the United States, the Caribbean, South America, and Asia. The ice trade worked by building an entire supply chain around a natural phenomenon, the freezing of fresh water in cold northern winters. But it was inherently fragile. Mild winters reduced supply. Long shipping distances caused losses. Urban demand was growing faster than the ice supply could reliably meet. An ice cut from open ponds raised its own sanitation concerns. A pond used for ice harvesting in December might receive agricultural runoff, animal waste, or other contamination that then entered the ice supply distributed to homes and restaurants. The technological answer came from an unexpected direction. John Gorrie was a Florida physician working in the 1840s in Apalachicola, a small port town on the Gulf of Mexico. Gorrie was treating patients with malaria and yellow fever, and he believed that reducing the temperature of hospital rooms might help his patients tolerate the illness better. He began experimenting with mechanical cooling using compressed air, and in 1844 constructed a working ice-making machine, one of the first in the world, to cool his hospital rooms. He received a United States patent for his ice machine in 1851. The scientific establishment and the ice industry both dismissed him. The ice trade had powerful commercial interests invested in the natural ice supply, and an inventor from an obscure Florida town proposing a machine that made its own ice struck many observers as absurd. Gorrie died in 1855, largely discredited, before his fundamental idea was proven commercially viable. The genuine breakthrough came from Germany. Carl von Linde, a professor of engineering at the Technical University of Munich, published a theoretical framework for vapor compression refrigeration in 1871 and built the first practical vapor compression refrigeration machine in 1876. Von Linde's device used ammonia as the refrigerant and created sustained, controllable cold temperatures reliably and efficiently. His design became the foundation of the refrigeration industry. The first industrial application was the meatpacking industry, and it transformed the economics of food distribution entirely. Gustavus Swift, a Chicago meat packer, recognized in the 1870s that if beef could be slaughtered and chilled in Chicago and then transported in refrigerated railroad cars to eastern cities, the entire economics of the industry would change. He funded the development of practical refrigerated railcars, and by 187-8 was shipping dressed beef from Chicago to Boston. The cost of beef dropped in eastern markets. Local slaughterhouses in eastern cities went out of business. The centralized, industrialized meat processing industry that shapes American food production today is the direct descendant of Swift's refrigerated railcar insight. Refrigerated shipping eventually extended globally. Refrigerated steam ships began carrying frozen meat from Argentina and New Zealand to Britain in the 1880s. Bananas, a fruit previously unknown to most Americans because they spoiled within days of harvest, became affordable and common across the United States after refrigerated transport made their distribution possible. The global food trade, the movement of perishable goods across hemispheres, exists because of mechanical refrigeration. The domestic refrigerator arrived in American homes slowly. The first electric household refrigerators appeared around 1913. General Electric introduced the monitor-top refrigerator in 1927, a cylindrical compressor unit mounted on top of a cabinet, selling for around $300 at a time when the average annual wage was approximately $1,500. It was expensive, but it worked reliably, and it sold. By 1937, roughly 2 million American homes had electric refrigerators. By 1944, approximately 85% of American homes with electricity had one. The early refrigerants presented their own hazards. Ammonia, sulfur dioxide, and methyl chloride, all used in early domestic refrigerators, were toxic. Leaks caused injuries and deaths. Thomas Midgley Jr. and Charles Kettering developed Freon, a chlorofluorocarbon refrigerant, in 1930 as a safer alternative. It was chemically stable, non-toxic, and non-flammable. An apparent solution to the refrigerant safety problem. It would take until the 1970s for scientists to understand that chlorofluorocarbons were destroying the stratospheric ozone layer, leading to the Montreal Protocol of 1987 and the eventual phase-out of Freon from refrigeration systems worldwide. Today, are the cold chain, the continuous refrigerated supply network that moves food from production through processing, distribution, and retail, is one of the most critical pieces of infrastructure in the global food system. The World Health Organization estimates that approximately 600 million cases of foodborne illness occur globally each year, killing around 420,000 people. And this is the figure with modern refrigeration in place. Research published in Nature Food in 2021 estimated that without refrigeration technology, food spoilage losses in high-income countries would increase by between 30 and 40% within a single year. The quiet hum in your kitchen represents the boundary between the food system we have and something far more dangerous and unpredictable. There is something genuinely remarkable about an invention so successful, so completely embedded in daily infrastructure, that it becomes invisible. The refrigerator does not announce itself. It does not demand gratitude. It hums in the background while your food stays safe, and the bacterial growth that would otherwise begin within hours is halted. Frederick Tudor shipped ice to Calcutta. John Gorrie cooled a hospital room in Florida. Carl von Linde built a machine in Munich. Gustavus Swift loaded a refrigerated railcar in Chicago. Each of them moved the story forward one chapter toward the appliance that now sits against your kitchen wall. Before refrigerators, food did not just spoil. It killed people, shaped cities, and limited where human civilization could flourish. The machine that ended that is one of the most consequential objects ever built. It deserves at least a moment of acknowledgement the next time you open the door. References: Jonathan Rees, Refrigeration Nation, A History of Ice, Appliances, and Enterprise in America. Nicola Twilley, The Cold, A History of Cool. Oscar Edward Anderson, Jr., Refrigeration in America. A History of a New Technology and Its Impact. The transition from the ice trade to mechanical refrigeration was not smooth or immediate. In the United States, the Iceman, a figure who delivered large blocks of ice to homes by horse-drawn cart and slid them into the insulated wooden icebox cabinet in the kitchen, was a daily fixture of urban life well into the 1920s. The icebox was a substantial piece of furniture, a wooden cabinet with a top compartment for a block of ice weighing 25 to 50 pounds and cooled storage below. The Iceman's daily visit structured urban household routines, much as grocery delivery services do today. When electric refrigerators made the icebox obsolete, tens of thousands of ice delivery workers and ice harvesting laborers lost their livelihoods within a single decade. One of the earlier examples of a technology transition eliminating an entire labor category, both rapidly and completely,